What if the secret to vibrant aging lies not in step counts, but in the joy of rediscovering movement and friendship? Join me as I embrace the unexpected beauty of life through laughter, yoga, and community. I found myself reflecting on those early days of my retirement, when the thrill of newfound freedom had me chasing the elusive 10,000 steps each day. At first, I was so enthusiastic about my daily walks, reveling in the warm sunlight and the gentle breeze on my face. Each step felt like a small victory, a commitment to my health and well-being. As I paced through the neighborhood, I often envisioned myself as a spry young athlete rather than an 82-year-old woman with silver hair that I dutifully styled each morning. However, the excitement soon turned into something else entirely, and it was in those moments that I started to realize a profound truth. The relentless pursuit of steps was not my path to health after all. Initially, I brushed away the discomfort by attributing it to the normal aches and pains of aging, but fatigue swept over me like a shadow, and soon enough, minor joint pains settled in. What had started as an invigorating experience turned into a weary obligation, and that cheerful treadmill of animated plodding morphed into a quiet labyrinth of determination and restlessness. I was reminded of a lesson I had learned long ago as a physical therapist. Balance is crucial. Striving blindly for a step goal without considering different forms of activity left me feeling depleted rather than uplifted. My body needed variety, enough moments of respite to sustain my energy and enthusiasm. Encouragingly, my dear friend Jessie often popped over, dressed in her athletic gear, exuding the energy I was desperately trying to channel. "You know, Mabel," she said one afternoon while we sat on my porch with cups of chamomile tea, "instead of focusing solely on mileage, why don't we try some gentle yoga?" The idea rolled off her tongue like sweet honey, bringing warmth to my heart before I could fully process it. The thought of swapping my regimented walks for a more contained space, filled with stretches and deep breathing, was fascinating. Jessie's zest sparked a flicker of excitement in me, a notable flicker. The next day, I found myself matting up on my living room floor, a sea of calm washing over me. As Jessie guided us through those gentle motions, I realized how immobile my body had become, even while I was so fiercely dedicated to walking. The blend of balance exercises and yoga sequences unlocked tension I had accumulated, places I didn't even know were tense. Stretching felt like an act of liberation. I could feel my mind shifting away from rigid daily routines into a more fluid movement that accepted my body where it was and still demanded progress. The focus shifted, less about counting and therefore competing, and more about feelings and moments. George, my neighbor, often walked by as Jessie guided me through my newfound practice. While he was initially resistant, his daily strolls cast in plaid and his well-worn jeans beneath a rigid facade, there was a spark in his eye too. I caught George grinning at my flourishing spirit. "Hey, Mabel," he called out one day, "I might just join you on that mat someday." The laughter that exploded from both Jessie and me seemed to reverberate through the morning air. As I called back, "The mat is open. No step counts here." I sensed an opening, that he might be leaning towards a change himself. As time unfolded, I started inviting George to our sessions, overcoming his initial reluctance with joy and humor. Each class was a blend of laughter, shared stories, and a commitment to moving our aging bodies with intention. We created a community, not just through the yoga postures, but through a shared understanding of our evolving worlds. Each backward bend, each seated twist, each forward fold served as a bridge connecting us deeper in our friendship and well-being. What began as physical exercise transformed into an empowering experience which mattered far more than any step count I could have ever imagined. Resting upon our mats after an hour of gentle work, we breathed, both weary and rejuvenated. I couldn't help but ponder how, together with Jessie and George, we had begun to turn the tides on conventional norms. It wasn't merely about mileage anymore. It was a celebration of balance, joy, and transformation in whatever forms we embraced. And perhaps, just perhaps, I thought, as a smile tugged at my lips, we could inspire other friends in our community to rethink their approach to wellness too. How do we reshape our narratives as we age? Focusing not only on how far we walk, but how gracefully we can dance through this beautiful life. As Jesse and I continued our yoga sessions, I noticed a remarkable shift, not just in myself, but in George as well. My treasured neighbor, who once sauntered past my home with an inquisitive smile, now lingered longer, intrigued by the laughter and light that filled our practice. One afternoon, as Jesse gracefully transitioned into a tree pose, George unexpectedly shuffled up to the patio entrance, his plaid shirt snapping in the wind. "What's all this about balance?" he asked, a hint of skeptic curiosity laced in his voice. I smiled back at him, gesturing for him to join. "Come on, George. You might just find that Matt has a few stories of its own." With that invitation, a flutter of hope intertwined with coaxing warmth, we welcomed him into our makeshift sanctuary and paved the way for a new journey, one grounded more in joy than perfection. That very day, George tentatively rolled out his mat beside mine, creating a triumvirate of support. Watching him try to mimic Jesse's poses brought a flood of laughter that resonated deep within me. George approached these new movements the same way he had walked, with a blend of determination and cautious hesitance. Yet there was beauty in his struggle. Each wobble and stutter transformed into an opportunity for us to share lighthearted moments. "I'll be honest, Mabel," he said between laughter. "I thought sticking to walking was good enough. But this is a workout for my heart and my spirit." Jessie chimed in enthusiastically, her auburn strands catching the sunlight. "Exactly. It's all about building strength in ways that empower you in everyday life, George." And as the session pressed onward, I could see realization spark in his wise, knowing eyes. With each passing week, our connection deepened, not solely through the collective strains of our bodies, but through the values we shared in our friendship. We began to understand that encouraging physical activity wasn't merely about pushing our limits, but about fostering an environment where vulnerability was celebrated and growth was supported. Mornings became our sacred time, the air outside filled with laughter and camaraderie. My once relentless focus on step counting had transformed, allowing me to savor the delight of each twist, stretch, and breath. One day, while sharing post-class herbal tea, George delightedly exclaimed, "Our bodies might be aging, but I feel fresher now than I have in years." Those words hung in the air, palpable with authenticity, and for a moment, I felt truly grateful for this new lease on our lives. Jessie's enthusiasm radiated, her athletic spirit contagious as we explored different activities together. We incorporated breathwork and stretches that filled us with renewed energy, allowing our bodies to flow with intention rather than obligation. George, though still a bit stubborn, began to offer his insights from years of experience in various sports. "You know," he said on one particularly bright afternoon post-sun salutation, "maybe we all should have taken a yoga class sooner." I chuckled, embracing the idea that we were lifting each other to new heights, discovering layers of ourselves that had remained dormant under the weight of routine and expectation. Encouraged by George's newfound zeal for embracing the unexpected, I often thought about how this past year had reshaped my narrative. I had cultivated strength by relinquishing control and allowing agility to lead the way instead. Our practice didn't merely enhance our physical health, it shifted our dialogue about aging in a profoundly transformative way. No longer content with the confines of traditional exercise, we found ourselves discussing topics that transcended our physical capabilities. The conversations evolved into musings about personal purpose and collective inspiration, encapsulating not just our relationship with fitness, but with life itself. George shared stories from his youth about the grave risks he had taken in pursuit of adventure and the lessons learned along the way. Jessie offered anecdotes of overcoming hurdles in her athletic journey, creating a mosaic of shared experience that fortified our bond all the more. I marveled at how this blending of narratives encouraged us all to grow ceaselessly, naturally urging us to embrace the unpredictable beauty that life offered. As summer stretched toward fall, the neighborhood buzzed with activity. A shift, perhaps, influenced by our weekly gatherings. Word spread of our yoga sessions, whispers of joyous laughter spilling like petals carried by the wind. One warm evening, while we cooled down on our mats beneath the setting sun, our friends from the community paused on their evening stroll, intrigued by the laughter spilling from our open doors. "What's all this?" one neighbor asked as they slowed to peer inside. With a warmth engulfing my heart, I called out, "Well, we're redefining what it means to stay active together. Join us." The hesitant smiles on their faces spoke volumes. Perhaps they too felt a longing to break free from rigid exercise routines and venture into the fluidity we had discovered. Would they be brave enough to come inside this world we had built from love and support? What began as a simple reevaluation of exercise routines for myself had morphed into an inspiring shift among our friends, bubbling with possibility and inclusivity. As more neighbors expressed interest, I realized the spark of transformation stemmed not simply from the act of practicing yoga, but from creating a space where we could empower one another through every breath and movement. The feeling of connection in our small community burst forward like the vibrant colors of autumn. I contemplated what it meant to navigate this chapter of life, imperfect yet inviting. As I glanced at George, Jesse, and the bright faces of our newfound friends, I couldn't help but ask, how many more stories are waiting to unfold with each loving breath we take together? As the weeks flowed by like the autumn leaves spiraling down from their branches, our yoga sessions transformed into something greater than just a gathering. They morphed into a tapestry woven from laughter, shared stories, and collective resilience. By now, our once exclusive trio had welcomed new faces, curious neighbors eager to embrace this invigorating approach to activity. Jesse's enthusiasm had become infectious, often encouraging participants to try poses that challenged them both physically and mentally. One morning, as a slight chill hung in the air, I watched George finally hold a downward dog for more than a few seconds. "I might just be a tree among the redwoods," he proclaimed with a chuckle, his pride warming our group even further. This playful banter formed a rhythm, a sweet melody to our practice that underscored the joy we found in trying something unfamiliar. In this newfound community, we began exploring the concept of balance, not just in our yoga routines, but across our lives. This idea, one I had often emphasized during my years as a physical therapist, revealed itself in our discussions. We spoke about the importance of maintaining balance beyond the physical, a blend of social, mental, and emotional health. George shared narratives of his youth, reflecting on times he thrived while wandering off the beaten path, and Jessie recounted a particularly challenging yoga retreat where she learned that embracing vulnerability could lead to empowerment. Each story, intertwined with our daily practices, created a richer understanding of how diverse experiences contribute to lifelong strength and wellness. I realized how that age-old adage, "It takes a village," reverberated true in our personal journeys, illuminating the path ahead. Embraced by this camaraderie, we soon decided to expand our horizons further. One afternoon, perhaps inspired by the golden glow of a setting sun, we brainstormed new activities to augment our yoga practice. "Why not try water aerobics?" I suggested, recalling the joy I had experienced in those buoyant movements during my professional journey. Jesse's eyes lit up. "Imagine the resistance training and the gentle flow." George, ever the pragmatist, weighed in. "You're both pulling your tricks on me," yet, beneath his careful skepticism, I could sense a willingness to explore. With excitement propelling us, we mapped out our next adventure, right there in the autumn air, transforming our gentle musings into firm plans. As the first day at the community pool approached, a mix of nervous energy and exhilaration coursed through me. Stepping out of our comfort zones demanded courage. I pondered how easy it would have been to shy away from this idea, convinced that our established routine was sufficient. Yet, standing beside George and Jesse at the pool's edge, clad in our swimwear, I realized just how essential it was to embrace the unknown. The teaching we provided to one another endowed us with the confidence that, regardless of age, experimenting with our wellness could lead us to exhilarating discoveries. The water was warm, the atmosphere electric, and I couldn't remember the last time I felt such anticipation within our group's dynamic. Our first foray into water aerobics was nothing short of magical. The buoyancy of the water allowed us to glide through a series of movements that challenged our coordination in unique ways. I chuckled as George, neuromuscularly committed yet ever the playful spirit, attempted to demonstrate a cannonball and instead became a delightful splash of flailing arms and legs. "I'm not built for this swimming stuff," he teased, laughter spilling from his lips as I joined in. Jesse, with boundless energy, led us through routines while encouraging everyone to find their rhythm, their unique style, even as balancing in the water tested our previously held perceptions of fitness. As we splashed and moved, our laughter echoed through the summer air, acting as a gentle reminder of the lightness life could offer when we embraced play. In those moments, our connection as a group solidified deeper than I could have ever imagined, strengthened not only by laughter but also by the shared resilience that comes from trying, failing, and improving together. After class, while shaking out our swim caps and drying off under the sun, our conversation unfolded into deeper insights about how we could further nurture ourselves as we aged. Jesse proposed forming a dedicated movement group that combined various activities like hiking, cycling, or even invigorating dance classes. George perked up. "I never danced in my life, but I'm willing to give it a whirl. Who knows?" His willingness to embrace the unexpected inspired us all, reinforcing the understanding that age is merely a number, not a definition of what we could achieve or enjoy. By the time winter whispered its way into our neighborhood, our group would become a beacon for others, physically and emotionally strengthening bonds that could uplift an entire community. The awareness that we could rejuvenate our bodies and spirits through diverse activities sparked a transformative movement, illuminating the way for others who hadn't yet stepped onto their paths. I reflected on our joyful practices, where laughter intertwined with the lessons of age. And it dawned on me, a deeper narrative was being crafted here, one that showcased how balance transcends mere physical movement. As I stood amongst my new friends, practicing the poses that had grounded us and enriched our relationships, I pondered what other transformations were meant to unfold as we navigated this journey of discovery. As winter settled in, transforming our neighborhood into a wonderland of frosty artistry, it also introduced an invigorating burst of motivation within our little community. The first snowflakes fell like confetti, encouraging us to switch gears yet again in our quest for varied fitness. Jessie, bursting with her usual enthusiasm, suggested we try a mixture of indoor activities that would keep our spirits up and our bodies moving, no matter how cold it got outside. "What about a weekly gathering for indoor games? Or maybe even a cozy dance party right here at my house?" She grinned, her auburn ponytail bouncing as she spoke. The idea sparked laughter and intrigue, with George eyeing his vintage record player, contemplating how to make music flow through our winter gatherings. Just the thought of bringing warmth and joy during the frosty season seemed to breathe new life into each of us. With the groundwork laid for new indoor adventures, our first gathering was a much-anticipated event. Jesse's living room was transformed into a dance floor, adorned with soft fairy lights and the aroma of freshly baked cookies wafting through the air. The playlist, generated by George, mixed classic oldies with recent hits that invited smiles and reminiscing as we reminisced about dances past. It amazed me how music connected us in a way that exercise could not alone. It evoked memories of youthful summers and carefree twilight evenings. As we swayed and twirled, lifting our spirits and hearts simultaneously, the joy in the room became palpable. George, with his stubbornness fading, found himself breaking into a shimmy, the laughter following like shadows behind him. "Who knew this old tree could still dance?" he chuckled between breaths, embracing the rhythm of life with each step. Beyond the sheer joy of movement, the gatherings began to cultivate something deeper, a bond forged by our collective resolve to prioritize our well-being over mere daily routines. Our conversations meandered through personal stories and shared dreams, allowing each of us to step into roles we might have previously thought of as youthful pursuits. Mabel, usually shy about sharing her thoughts outside of informal support discussions, began expressing her desire to paint again after noticing how art had woven through so many lives. "You two are the most vibrant colors I could ask for," she laughed, nudging Jessie and George with jovial affection. In those moments, our lives became a collective canvas, as laughter, camaraderie, and pursuit of passions painted a picture of resilience against any winter chill that loomed outside. Gradually, our gatherings flourished, becoming a sanctuary that nurtured every facet of our lives, not just our physical capabilities. With new and different activities spurring us on, the discussions evolved into plans. Jessie and I set out to organize a few indoor exercise classes to accompany our lighthearted dance parties. Let's add some gentle aerobics or maybe even a couple of yoga flows designed for the winter months, I suggested, buoyed by Jessie's enthusiasm. While George prepared his favorite playlist, we designed movements that were engaging yet accessible for all fitness levels. The idea was to create a space where each member could participate fully, regardless of their prior experience. Everyone should feel welcome to explore their own pace and approach without pressure. Then came the moment we had all been eagerly anticipating. Our first official indoor exercise gathering. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as everyone joined, each bearing stories of their week's journey and the plans we dreamt of realizing. I led the gentle aerobics, mixed with flowing yoga poses, carefully reminding everyone that it was about how we felt rather than meeting rigid expectations. Let's focus on our breath and how our bodies respond to movement, remembering that strength can appear in so many forms. I encouraged the warmth of everyone's smiles, reinforcing the intimacy of our newfound community. George stood front and center, and with his running commentary, he turned even the simplest movements into laughter-filled moments. Join me, getting low to the floor as though we were slipping on ice, and before long, we were all echoing his antics and laughter. By the time spring began tiptoeing into our lives, I found myself reflecting on how far we had wandered together on this journey toward balanced living. What had begun as a simple yoga class had blossomed into an evolving, supportive community rooted in mutual growth and exploration. For the first time in years, I felt invigorated by the fluctuations in our routines. They constantly breathed fresh life into our daily practices. I cherished not just the friends I'd gained, but the countless smiles exchanged through fun-filled activities that offered both laughter and vulnerability. The importance of balance surged to the forefront of my mind, its many forms waiting to dance through conversations in the weeks to come. And I realized that life wasn't merely about a step count or the miles we walked. It was about how we navigated those steps together. With spring in full bloom, a tremendous sense of hope coursed through our community. I thought back over the changes we had made, how embracing the spectrum of activities, from water aerobics to snowy dance parties, had not only enhanced our health but woven us closely into the fabric of each other's lives. It dawned on me that each moment, from laughter to support, had engineered an open invitation to embrace our ages where they stood, and we truly were thriving. As we prepared for a community potluck to celebrate these milestones and every future adventure we dreamed of embarking on, I asked my friends, "What shall our next chapter hold?" I could feel the